Ethan Miller was 30 years old, living in a small apartment on the quiet side of Seattle. He worked in medical device sales, a job that demanded long hours and endless patience. He wasn't rich, but he was steady, responsible, and proud of the life he built. His car was a silver Honda Accord he bought with cash, after years of saving. No loans, no debt, no showmanship, just reliability and peace of mind. His friends often joked that Ethan was the kind of guy who read every warranty card. He smiled, because he knew discipline had carried him further than luck ever could. One Friday night, he met Lily Sanders at a friend's birthday dinner downtown. She was magnetic, gold hair, confident laugh, the kind of woman who owned every room. She worked in marketing, managing social campaigns for small lifestyle brands. Ethan noticed how she talked with her hands, how her eyes lit up when she smiled. They exchanged numbers before dessert and were texting by the time they got home. The next few months felt effortless, the way new love often does. Lily admired Ethan's kindness, how he always held doors open and remembered details. He loved how driven she was, always planning, always dreaming about something bigger. They spent weekends exploring the city, visiting coffee shops and watching old movies. Ethan cooked dinner for her on Sundays, pasta with wine, candles on the table. It wasn't fancy, but it was theirs, and that felt like enough. He started thinking about the future, imagining a home, maybe even kids someday. He saved every bonus check, every commission, building a quiet plan for something more. By the second year, he had nearly $12,000 tucked away. Enough to buy the perfect ring, one that would make her eyes sparkle. Ethan wasn't impulsive. He researched everything, from diamond cuts to setting designs. He wanted to make it right, not grand, but meaningful. His best friend Marcus teased him for weeks. "Bro, you're too responsible for your own good," Marcus said. Ethan just laughed, because he knew what he wanted. He wanted a future with Lily, a steady, simple kind of happiness. But sometimes, simplicity isn't enough for people who crave more. Lily began scrolling through social media more often, starring at luxury influencers. She talked about designer bags, about trips to Italy, about living beautifully. Ethan listened, unsure if she was dreaming or complaining. He thought maybe she just needed reassurance, a sense of progress. He told her, "We'll get there one day. I just want us to build it right." She smiled, but something in her eyes had already shifted. Ethan didn't see it then, but the balance was changing. What once felt like love was slowly turning into comparison. She wanted the world to see success, not build it piece by piece. And while Ethan saved for a ring, Lily began saving her admiration for someone else. The storm had not yet come, but the clouds were already forming. It started on an ordinary Tuesday at the coffee shop, where Lily liked to work during lunch. She said she met someone interesting, a guy named Adrian Brooks. He ran a consulting business, or at least that's what he claimed. He was tall, perfectly groomed, always wearing clothes with big designer logos. He drove a black BMW that glimmered like a mirror under the sun. Lily described him as ambitious, the kind of man who knew what he wanted. Ethan smiled politely, pretending not to feel the small twist in his chest. At first, Adrian was just a name that floated through casual stories. Then he became part of every conversation, like an echo that wouldn't fade. Adrian this, Adrian that, Adrian said success is about image and confidence. Ethan nodded, unsure why he felt like a stranger in his own relationship. He reminded himself that Lily worked in marketing. Networking was part of her job. But the tone of her voice changed when she said Adrian's name. It carried admiration, almost longing, something soft but dangerous. Soon, Lily began dressing differently for work. He noticed her new outfits, sleek, stylish, and far more expensive than before. She started wearing perfume even on days she worked from home. Ethan asked gently, "What's the occasion?" She laughed, "Nothing, just trying to look the part if I want to move up." He didn't argue. He wanted to trust her. He wanted to believe. But late at night, when she scrolled through Instagram, he saw her smile at Adrian's posts. Photos of champagne dinners, rooftop views, motivational quotes about grind and glory. It was all a performance, but Lily loved the spotlight it created. Ethan's world was built on stability. Hers was being rewritten by illusion. The first crack appeared when she compared their lives out loud. Adrian just got invited to a private business event downtown, she said. He says successful people surround themselves with success. Ethan swallowed the sting and answered softly, I thought love was success. She didn't reply. She just looked at her phone, chasing validation in pixels. Her language shifted too. Words like potential, vision, and status filled her speech. Ethan began to feel smaller, as if everything he built wasn't enough anymore. Marcus noticed the change when they met for drinks. She's drifting, man, Marcus said. You can't compete with a fantasy. Ethan shrugged, but his silence said everything. He kept trying to please her. Small surprises, weekend getaways, thoughtful notes. But Lily was chasing a different kind of thrill now, one that he couldn't buy. She began criticizing little things. His car, his clothes, even his careful spending. Sometimes you have to take risks, Ethan, she said one night. People notice what you drive. It matters. He stared at her, realizing they no longer spoke the same language. What once connected them now divided them completely. And somewhere between ambition and greed, love started to fade. Ethan still held on, but the woman he loved was already walking away in her mind. It was a Saturday night in February, cold and quiet, the kind of evening made for love stories. Ethan had spent days planning something special for Lily. Dinner at a fine restaurant, tickets to a concert she'd once mentioned in passing. He even bought her a silver bracelet, small but elegant, a symbol of what was coming. In his closet, hidden behind a jacket, sat the engagement ring he'd saved for months to buy. He rehearsed his words, nervous but excited, certain this would bring them closer again. While he waited in the living room, Lily was getting ready in the bathroom. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table, the screen lighting up the dark. Ethan glanced instinctively and froze. A message preview glowed. VIP table tonight, champagne's on me, come live a little. The sender's name was Adrian Brooks. His heart sank, the world around him suddenly silent and heavy. When Lily stepped out, dressed beautifully, Ethan was still staring at her phone. She saw his face, saw the truth written all over it. Were you reading my messages? She asked sharply, more annoyed than guilty. It popped up right in front of me, he said quietly. What's this about, Lily? She snatched the phone, cheeks flushing with irritation. It's not what you think, she muttered. So you weren't planning to ditch me tonight for him? She hesitated, too long, too telling. I wasn't going to go, she said finally. I told him I had plans. But you thought about it, Ethan said, his voice breaking slightly. She sighed, avoiding his eyes. Ethan, can I be honest? When was the last time you took me somewhere impressive? He blinked, stunned. I thought tonight was supposed to be impressive, he said. I mean real impressive, she continued. Somewhere worth showing off. Lily, he whispered, I've spent everything I can just trying to make you happy. That's the problem, she said coldly. You think small, Adrian dreams big. He stared at her, trying to find the woman he'd once known. What exactly do you want from me? He asked. I want someone who wants more than this, she said, gesturing around the apartment. This place, your job, your car, it's also average. The silence between them was thick and final. Lily, he said slowly, if you walk out that door tonight, don't come back. She paused, lips trembling, then smirked. Maybe I shouldn't, she said, grabbing her purse. Maybe I deserve better. The door closed softly behind her, and the world stopped. Ethan sat there, staring at the empty room, the untouched bracelet still on the table. He didn't cry. He just felt hollow, like something inside him had been quietly erased. Minutes later, he called Marcus. "She left," he said simply. "For him." Marcus didn't hesitate. "Then let her go," he said. "Pack her things, start over, she made her choice." Ethan nodded, his voice steady but cold. That night, he looked at the engagement ring one last time before putting it away for good. Love, he realized, had just been replaced by a lesson. The next morning, the apartment felt heavier, quieter, almost lifeless without her voice. Ethan walked from room to room, staring at the traces she'd left behind. Perfume on the dresser, a hairbrush on the counter, a sweater hanging by the door. He realized love could disappear, but its fingerprints stayed everywhere. Marcus showed up that afternoon with coffee and blunt advice. "Pack her stuff, man. Don't let her ghost haunt this place." Ethan nodded, silent but determined. They spent the weekend boxing everything that belonged to Lily. Shoes, makeup, books, even the framed photo from their first trip. For every item he packed, a piece of pain went with it. By Sunday night, all her boxes were sealed, labeled, and ready to go. He called her sister, dropped them off quietly, said nothing more. No explanations, no closure, just silence. Monday morning, he changed the locks and walked away from the past. Then he did something he'd been avoiding for months. He sent his resume. A bigger company had offered him a position months ago, but he'd hesitated. He'd told himself he didn't want to travel too much because of Lily. Now there was nothing stopping him. He interviewed that same week and got the job 2 days later. Higher salary, bigger territory, more responsibility. Ethan didn't celebrate, he just felt ready. Work became therapy, the only thing that made sense anymore. He woke early, hit the gym, and poured his energy into success. Every deal closed, every promotion earned was another piece of his healing. Months passed, and his numbers climbed higher than ever before. He bought a new car, an Audi this time, not to impress anyone but for himself. He moved into a new apartment downtown, with sunlight and space. The man Lily called unambitious was now thriving beyond anything she imagined. Marcus saw the change and smiled. "You're back, bro, stronger." Ethan laughed for the first time in months. He stopped checking Lily's social media, stopped wondering what she was doing. Until one day, curiosity won. Her photos were all smiles and filters, always with Adrian by her side. But something about her eyes looked forced, hollow. Ethan closed the app and whispered to himself, "Not my problem anymore." Instead, he focused on new beginnings. He met people through work, made new friends, started traveling again. For the first time in years, his life felt like it belonged to him. No games, no comparisons, no pretending. He wasn't chasing anyone's approval now, only his own potential. And late at night, when he thought about Lily, he didn't feel anger. He just felt gratitude that she'd left when she did. Because losing her had forced him to find himself. And somewhere between heartbreak and ambition, Ethan became someone new. 8 months later, Ethan's life looked nothing like the one he'd left behind. He was thriving, confident, and busier than ever. His sales, numbers, shattered company records month after month. He'd earned respect, promotions, and finally, peace of mind. The ghosts of the past had faded into quiet lessons. Then, out of nowhere, life gave him something unexpected, Grace. She was a nurse practitioner, calm, grounded, and endlessly kind. They met during a hospital visit for one of his clients. Their first conversation lasted 2 hours and felt effortless. Grace laughed easily and listened deeply, the way Lily never had. She had her own career, her own goals, her own independence. When Ethan offered to pay for dinner, she smiled and said, "Let's split it." That small moment told him everything he needed to know. She wasn't looking for a savior, she wanted a partner. For the first time, Ethan felt love that didn't cost him his self-worth. They built something real, simple, and full of respect. Every night with her felt like proof that he'd chosen the right path. While his world grew brighter, Another story was falling apart. Marcus sent him a link one evening, a photo of Lily and Adrian online. They looked glamorous, posing beside rented cars and borrowed champagne. But Marcus zoomed in on the caption, "Building our empire together." He laughed. "Empire of credit cards, maybe." Ethan smiled but didn't reply. He didn't need revenge. Time was already doing the job for him. Weeks later, whispers started circulating through mutual friends. Adrian's consulting firm wasn't real. His clients were disappearing. He'd been charging businesses up front and delivering nothing in return. Debt collectors were calling. The BMW had been repossessed. And Lily, the girl who once dreamed of luxury, was sinking fast. She'd quit her stable job to run the business with Adrian. Now she had no income, no savings, and thousands in unpaid bills. Her social media posts became fewer, her smiles tighter, her words defensive. She posted about new beginnings and manifesting abundance. But everyone could see the cracks behind the captions. Ethan didn't gloat. He'd moved beyond that. Still, a quiet satisfaction lingered in his heart. Not because she was suffering, but because truth had surfaced. The life she'd chosen was nothing more than a glittering illusion. And while her world collapsed, Ethan's continued to rise. He was promoted again, this time managing an entire region. His income doubled, his confidence soared, and his heart was steady. Grace stood by him, proud and supportive, never demanding more than love. Together, they started planning their future, one built on trust. Ethan realized he'd gained far more than he'd lost. Lily had chased the image of success. He'd built the reality of it. And that difference made all the pain worth remembering. Sometimes karma doesn't arrive loudly. It just lets the truth be seen. 2 years passed, and Ethan had become a different man entirely. He owned his own sales agency now, representing major pharmaceutical brands. 12 employees worked under him, each one trained with his discipline and drive. He made more money than he ever dreamed of, but stayed humble and grounded. Grace and he had bought a house with a big yard and sunlight in every room. They were engaged, planning a spring wedding surrounded by friends and laughter. Life felt full, calm, and completely his. One evening, while they were having dinner, his phone started to ring. The number was local, but unfamiliar. Ethan almost ignored it, but something made him answer. "Ethan, hey man, it's Adrian Brooks," the voice said hesitantly. Ethan froze for a moment, then laughed softly. "Adrian, didn't expect to hear from you. What do you want?" "Look, I know things were messy, but I really need your help," Adrian said. "We're in a bad spot financially, and I've got a business idea that could change everything." Ethan leaned back, amused. "Let me guess, you need an investor." "Exactly," Adrian said quickly. "You've got experience, money, connections, it's a win-win." Ethan smiled, his tone sharp but calm. "Is Lily still with you?" There was a pause, then a weak, "Yeah, she's here." A second later, Lily's voice came through the line, quiet and trembling. "Hi, Ethan." He could almost see her, the guilt heavy in every syllable. "We're struggling," she said. "The business failed, we're behind on rent, we might get evicted." Ethan said nothing for a long moment. Then Lily added softly, "We were hoping you could help us out, just a small loan, 40,000 maybe." Grace, sitting beside him, raised an eyebrow but stayed silent. Ethan put the call on speaker. Marcus happened to be there too, visiting. 40,000, Ethan repeated, pretending to think. "That's a lot of faith, Lily." "I know things ended badly," she said quickly. "But you're successful now, you've moved on, there's no weirdness." Ethan laughed, low and cold. 3 years ago, I was ready to spend 12,000 on a ring for you, he said. "You said I wasn't ambitious enough, that I wasn't on your level." Lily's voice cracked. "I was wrong, Ethan, I was stupid." "No," he said softly. "You just mistook noise for success. You chose fantasy over foundation." Adrian tried to interrupt. talking fast about potential profits and new beginnings. Ethan cut him off. I looked into your business once, Adrian. It's not real. You're not real. The silence that followed was heavy, almost cruel in its honesty. Lily began to cry. Please, Ethan, we have nothing left. Ethan's tone didn't change. Then rebuild, start over, the same way I did when you walked away. He ended the call without another word. Marcus burst out laughing. Man, that was art. Cold, clean, final. Ethan smiled faintly. Not revenge, just balance. Outside, the evening sky glowed gold, calm and certain, like the life he'd built from ashes. 3 weeks later, news spread that Adrian had been arrested for fraud and theft. He'd been scamming small businesses with fake contracts and unpaid debts. Lily lost everything: her home, her credit, her reputation. She moved back in with her parents, starting over from nothing. Ethan never called her, never checked in, never gloated. He didn't need to. Life had already done the teaching. While she faced the wreckage of her choices, he lived the proof of his. Grace and he got married that spring in a garden filled with sunlight. Their vows were simple, honest, and built on everything money couldn't buy. When he looked into her eyes, he saw peace, something Lily never understood. He once thought losing her was the worst thing that could happen. Now he realized it was the best. Sometimes, heartbreak isn't punishment, it's preparation. And the universe always finds a way to balance the scales. The man who was once left behind had finally outrun the past. And this time, he wasn't chasing love. He was living it,